everyone. Eva Hussein, Director at Polaron here. Firstly, let me just wish you all the very best for 2021. We are hoping that this year will be much better than the one that we left behind. And as we're continuing this series about Polish citizenship, I wanted to invite you to connect and talk to us, ask questions, and share any information or questions you have. But today we're talking about research, research for the purpose of obtaining a Polish citizenship. Why is it important? We will cover that. What can you do specifically as a client or potential client? We will cover that. And so these sessions are a great opportunity to learn more about how research works and how citizenship works. My guest for today is someone pretty special, someone that's been on board at Polaron for the last few months. Her job is coordinating research, and it's a massive job, a very important one. So let me warmly welcome Paulina Bartoszewska all the way in Łódź. Hi, Paulina, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine. How are you? Thank you very much for having me.
Pretty good. And I know it's really early in the morning for you, and it's dark, and it's winter, but never mind, let's get straight into it. First of all, tell us, and I've stalked you on LinkedIn a little bit, as I said, you've done all kinds of very, very interesting positions, all of them kind of connected to project management. Can you tell us about your background or where you come from professionally?
Well, I am the graduate of English studies at Łódź University, so this is my master's degree that I did. But all my life I worked as a project manager in different kind of industries, film industry, advertisement industry, and this gave me like a massive experience of how to manage projects, how to talk with clients, which I love actually, having meetings with people right now on Zoom only, but still. How to organize myself. I never had a boss really, so I always organized myself how to do the job. But also, you know, for many years I've managed a company which kind of relates to what I'm doing right now, because this company was all about archiving records, storing of records, digitizing records, getting in contact with state archives and having meetings with them, how to find records and what can be done to help people to find their documents in different for different purposes, but still how to dig them out from the archives and how to just generate everything that you need to have. So I think Polaron is like another step in the same direction, I think this experience that I have and the connections that I have in Start Archives really helped me to get through the process of the research in Polaron quite smoothly, I think. So.
And it's true, because I've worked with you initially when you started sort of every day with the handovers and trying to dig into client stories. So what you described is really what you do daily. But when clients come to you, what happens initially? Can you maybe take us through the process of the initial contact? Because it is a two-way street, right? When you work with clients.
Yes. So once the client decides to work with Polaron and to go ahead with the research, my first contact is pretty quick. Like within a week, I learn that a client comes on board. And what we discussed during the first meeting is the documents that the client sent us, what we have to look for, and why we need to look for those additional documents. And also, what is very important is to give the client the timelines, because the research is not a fast process. It takes months, and well, especially right now with the pandemic going on, So we need to stress this out for the client not to be patient, really. Especially that Polish archives are not much digitized, and this is mainly manual search in the archives. That's why it takes a few months to really find documents for the client. And most of them do understand this because, well, we have pandemic worldwide, so it's not like a
Nothing new.
Polish thing only. Yeah, so they are you know, they understand that the process will take some time.
And tell
And
me,
this is the first, yeah.
go.
No, I just want to say that you know, they understand, and I never get the impression that they are in a hurry, really. They understand, and they are cooperative. They always ask, what else can I do? What other documents can I gather for you and obtain to help you in your search? So I always tell them, whatever you can get your hands on, any bit of information, any shred of information and document from the family, from family archives can help us, really. So send everything over.
Right. Because it is this is the question I have for you, because it is an ongoing relationship with the client. So essentially, when people come to you, they come with sometimes very little or very precious information, and also lots of trauma, also quite a few holes in the story. So when you interview them at the beginning, we have what we call kickoff meetings, where we have a discussion with the client and try and piece together all the information that they have, we've been able to find online. What happens after that? How does the relationship develop over time?
So after the kickoff meeting, once we receive the letters of authority, because as I stress out to every client, we cannot start the research without hard copies of the letters of authority. Why? Because Polish authorities, archives, registry offices, they do not accept scans or copies. They need to have hard copies. So this is very important for the client to send them out immediately without any delays, because we are delayed in the process, basically. During the kickoff meeting, we review the documents that the client sent. I ask the questions if I have any kind of not clear about the story or about the names, about the dates. Maybe there are some discrepancies with the dates, so we discuss that. We discuss the story, I mean the timeline of, you know, being born, leaving Poland, going to USA or to Australia, Canada, whatever. And so we are basically talking about the timeline. Then we decide how to proceed. And then once the letters of authority arrived in Poland, I just sent all the files to the research team, and they start working. They start sending requests to state archives, to registry offices, to any kind of museums if needed. If we see that the family members went to Germany at some point, we are involving Nadia from Germany, and she's doing research on her side. If they went to UK at some point, then we will involve Monica to do the research on her side to check if we can find some files there. And usually during the kickoff meeting, I set up another meeting, an update meeting with the client within the period of 7 to 8 weeks. Okay, so we have it scheduled. I know when I will have to update the client. So then my job really is to check if the research started, what we've done, where we sent the requests, if we gathered any documents. Maybe we have to call the institution and say, look, hurry up sometimes, so that I can have some more information for the client during the update meeting. And what my role is also to do the online search. So what I'm doing is I'm going to this digitized files to the National Archives of Australia or to ancestry.com or to ITS files, and I see what I can just find online for the clients.
I wanted to say hello to Nadia from Germany, whom you mentioned, who's watching us. I can see her live.
Oh, okay. Hello, Nadia.
Hi, Nadia. The bigger question is why? So when people, we've been asked to cover this why and what by our sales team, because what happens is that when we talk to people before they become clients, they'll often say things like, well, you know, I have my grandmother's, I don't know, birth certificate, and I have her naturalization certificate from Canada, or whatever it may be. Why isn't this enough? So the first question to you from me is why we look for something other than what I mentioned, and what types of documents can you find?
Okay. For the Polish authorities to apply for Polish passport, it's not enough to have a birth certificate of a relative who was actually born in Poland. First of all, we have to link all the generations, right, together, up to the person who was born in Poland. It might be a father, grandfather, grandparents, great-great-parents, but it's not enough. So what we are looking for, we actually have to place this person in Poland. So we have to show our authorities that this person was not only born in Poland, but he was living in Poland. They had a residential address in Poland. They maybe had a business in Poland. Maybe they owned some land in Poland. Their children or they went to school in Poland. They had some ID documents, Polish ID documents. So these are the kind of voters lists also. So anything that puts this relative in Poland, actually. And this is what we are looking for in Poland, apart from birth certificates and maybe marriage certificates, right? If they were married in Poland.
Right. So it sounds like it's a pretty, to me, there's two things that one needs to have. You need to be really extremely well organized, but you also need to be very creative in how you look for information, because what you just described, it's very clear to me that we can't just go to one particular office or one particular website and say, here's the information we've done. It's a lot more than that. So could you maybe tell us how you go about developing a research plan? Because essentially you do have to work with a plan. We have hundreds of clients who come to us to get that information. So there's that logistical organizational set of skills that you as a researcher or research coordinator would need to have, but also the creative and the inquisitive side to things, right?
Yes, that's true. Well, really the research plan is created on the basis of the document that the client sent us. We are going through it. We are checking, looking at the birthplaces of the persons that were born in Poland. We are checking where those places are based, located. Are they still in Poland? Because they might be in Ukraine and Belarus right now. So then we will have to apply to the institutions in those countries for the records, for the former territories that were once Poland, but are not right now. And once we locate the place of birth, then we are going around this place for the registry office nearest the place, for the state archive nearest the place. If they cannot find the birth certificate or any other records, we are just spreading the search to bigger cities, bigger state archives, bigger registry offices, because they might have the records there. But also, when talking to the clients, they say, look, I think my family owned the land there, right? So then we Okay, so we'll try to locate some ownership documents of the land, which would be a good piece of information. And so we are just navigating around the birthplace, but sometimes the name is so distorted on the documents
Right.
that we have to kind of guess sometimes. And we had this client, just an example, and she said one document said Skarszew, the other one Skaryszy. These are two other places in Poland, two different places in Poland. So we sent the request to one, we come up with nothing, so we sent the request to another one, just in case. So really, we have to look at the bigger picture, right? Because many information is sometimes missing from the family tree. So we are just linking the generation one by one, gluing the pieces together just to come up with the whole story, or well, enough story to apply for the Polish passport. So it's really kind of, like a person digging into the story of a particular family and trying to establish the timelines and what happens to this family. And these are like wonderful stories. I mean, I remember one guy telling me that his grandma was a spy during the war. Yeah, another one was like an actress in some theater. Wonderful stories, really. Very, very inspiring. Yeah.
And of course, sometimes we start with very, very little or nothing, or in fact, we start with incorrect information. How do you handle sifting through those records of family trees or information that's incorrect? Are you imprecise?
Well, when we have like negative, I mean, many registry offices and especially state archives, if they don't have the documents records, they usually suggest where we can look for those records. So they are like redirecting us to some other institutions, other archives, and then we follow these leads. But many, when we are in a difficult position, I come up with the meeting with the client and I say, look, can you just talk to your family members which are still alive, because they might remember something. And they do. And then they say, look, I just had the news from my mom, and maybe my grandfather was born in this place. And you say, okay,
let's give it a go.
Yeah, let's give it a go. We'll write and maybe we'll hit on something. So it's really like a constant conversation with a client, constant exchange of information, family details, shreds of documents, because sometimes even a photograph might shed a new light on the research. So I'm always encouraging for the clients to send us as much as he has or she or he has on the hands, and just to talk with the family members.
Because of course it becomes a journey, and I don't even need to ask you now, once you've said what you've said, why it takes such a long time and why it's such a complicated thing to do, because I think there's a few myths that I wanted to cover with you. One is that there's no documentation in Poland. I don't think that's true. I think what is true though is that people don't always have a starting point, or know where to look. So that is why we're a professional research coordinator like you, and a team of people that we work with will help. What I wanted to ask you now is this, Paulina, though, because the Polish government, when people apply for confirmation of citizenship, doesn't have a checklist of documents. Essentially, they just say, look, give us what you have, and we'll tell you if that's enough to prove your Polish citizenship. So we do work on that assumption, that we try and be quite focused on what we look for. So we don't need to give them everything, because they don't want everything. They just want documents, as you said earlier, that prove that someone was not just born in Poland, but there were also residents in Poland after 1920, which is like a cutoff year. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There, and you know, every family story is different. So it's not like a checklist that we have. Even we just you know, there are my colleagues which I work with in Polish office, and every time when we gather some new documents, I said, look through it. Is it enough to finish the search and go to the next step? And they said, no, we will need this, we will need this. And you know, even some clients may be a bit irritated sometimes because suddenly I ask them, look, we have the birth certificate, but we need it notarized or certified, or we need apostille on it. And I said, why are you telling me this right now? And I said, well, because we just found it out that Polish authorities require us to have that, right? So it's not like a closed list of documents and every client will be sent this and that's it. You know, it's like a working process all the time.
Right, and of course, even if we form an opinion that we've got enough, the Polish government might disagree. And sometimes, of course, what also happens is that the Polish government does their own research and they might find something that doesn't quite gel, or they have further questions. So it's a back and forth and back and forth.
Yes.
Sometimes for several months, where they'll ask us questions or ask for further documents.
That's true, and they sometimes do need clarification because there might be some discrepancies between what we found and they found. So yeah, it's like constant conversation between parts, right? Me with the government and me with the client, and that's why I think those update meetings are so important. It's not enough to send an email saying, look, we found this, we didn't find this, and okay, we are in the process, right?
Right.
Because during the conversation, as I said, we might actually come up with some new pieces of information, just talking about it.
Right, and of course, for a lot of people, if not everybody, this whole journey is not just about getting a European passport. It's about reconnecting with their heritage and learning more about what their families went through. And I think there's such a secondary benefit to it all, or maybe it's even the first thing that people should consider when they want to reclaim their citizenship, and that is that indeed. You will learn more about your family through this process, because sometimes on the margin of documents, there's lots of very interesting annotations. Sometimes your great aunt will tell you something you never knew. So it is a journey of discovery. And, you know, at the end of the day, we are aiming to get you, your Polish passport. But what we give you on top of that is really very precious and priceless. Look, what I'm going to do now, Paulina, is hand over to Andrea, because we have a whole heap of questions for you, and only 7 minutes to do it in. So let's go, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. I'm truly fascinated with what you do, Paulina. So I have a few questions for you here. First of all, do you do research only? This person is not really looking to get a Polish passport at this stage, but they want to know more about their Polish heritage. Do we do that? Only research?
I suppose so. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We can find lots of documents for you and just take you on the journey and find out more about your family. And it is an emotional process, I can tell you. People are getting emotional when they find out about their families, the pieces of information they never had, like, I don't know, maybe the names of their great grandparents and where they lived in. So yes, we do that. We can do it for you. Also, if you are not interested in Polish passport at the end, but the research can be done. That's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Beautiful, thank you. Do you know how long the research takes in Poland on average?
Well, it all depends on the amount of documents that you already have. Once we review them, we can tell you the timelines. But on the average, registry offices and state archives do reply to us within 3 to 4 months. But if we go to the Institute of National Remembrance, which is like a huge archive, and one in Poland only, but having a lot of records of different kinds, their search might take up to 9 months because, as I said, it's like one big archive for the whole of Poland, and they have a lot of requests. So I would say from 4 months to 9 months in Poland.
And it also depends, I guess, which area of Poland we're talking about, because, you know, anybody that knows a little bit about Poland's history and geography knows that there's a massive area of Poland that is no longer Poland. It's now Ukraine or Belarus. So research that concentrates on those areas takes much longer and is much harder to do.
That's true.
But I think, you know, also we should be saying here, I guess, that some archives are more responsive than others because they are busier, or so it's not a homogeneous, or there's no one website where you can type your great-grandfather's name and information pops out. Quite the opposite. It's a labor of love, and it can take several months. We try and streamline it as much as we can, and we try and keep you up to date with where things are at. But the level of frustration that Paulina mentioned sometimes, you know, grows because people don't know. Or they ask for something that they didn't think they're going to be asked for.
All right, thank you so much. What do I need to start a research process about my Polish root? I guess this question goes about the sort of documents you need to get started. So is there any specific document they need to start the research process?
I would say a really good family tree would be the first thing that you need to have, and then I'll hand over to Paulina to give you more information.
Yeah, we actually do start with sending you this kind of file to fill in with the family tree, as much information as you have, and once we receive the family tree, we decide who to focus the search on, what family member, and then we'll ask you to send any documents that you have, really. So any birth certificates, marriage certificates, death certificates, really anything you have on your hands, and then we'll just look through those documents and we'll decide what the documents we need to find on our own. Okay, so there's no such thing as a list of documents you have to start the process. We will start research with whatever you have and send us.
That's right, and at the end of the day, we're working towards a, you know, according to our plan, but we're also working towards finding documents to provide evidence of your Polish citizenship. So it's not like any general research, I guess, where you look for everything and anything. It's not to build your family tree. It's the proper reason for this research is to find documents to provide evidence of your citizenship, and that is what we do. Guess what, Paulina? 30 minutes is over. So what I wanted to do now is thank you for getting up extra early for us and for being part of this.
Thank you very much.
It's been wonderful to get a little deep into your work, into your life. If people want to connect with us, you can go to our website, which is polaron.com.au. We've got all kinds of social media channels. If you want to speak to me, to Paulina, or any of our staff, the information's on the website. Paulina, I'm going to hand over to you just for the last few words for the session. But thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Telling us about your work, and anyone that works with Paulina will know that she's super organized. Like I promise you, super organized, but also very creative, right?
Yeah, I try to be very creative, and I try to be open to my clients, the clients I work with, and I'm open to have meetings, Zoom meetings. I love that. I love just seeing person behind the name, and I I will answer any questions, and I also try to get them like involved in the search, so that we can exchange ideas and views and documents. So please, if you want to connect to me, you're welcome. Otherwise, Polaron is a super great company to get on the journey to find out more about your heritage and your family and your ancestors. So please do come in.
Paulina, we're super happy to have you, and I personally want to thank you for your time this morning, this afternoon, Melbourne time, and we will see you around.
Yep, we will. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.